It's Tuesday, October 22nd. I'm Paul Joseph Watson. This is InfoWars Nightly News.
Tonight on the InfoWars Nightly News, 47 million food stamp recipients to have their benefits cut back on November 1st, while DHS spends 80 million in tax dollars to quell civil disturbance. Plus, Alex Jones and Anthony Gucciardi reason with the San Antonio police chief at the Alamo over gun control. All that and more on the InfoWars Nightly News.
Top story tonight, Interpol chief, arm citizens globally to prevent terror attacks. Interpol Secretary General Ronald Noble told ABC News that one of the only ways to prevent terrorists from hitting soft targets was to arm citizens globally, noting that the Westgate mall siege would have been averted far quicker if it had taken place in gun-friendly areas like Denver or Texas. Noble's statements are a powerful rebuttal to the anti-gun lobby, especially given his background. The Interpol chief was formerly head of all law enforcement for the US Treasury Department. And as we saw with the mall siege in Kenya, it was ex-SAS soldiers and others armed with handguns who helped rescue the hostages, who couldn't defend themselves because they live in a country where, aside from the government, only criminals and terrorists are able to access guns. So the head of Interpol is now saying that it's time to arm the people to prevent bloodbaths like the Westgate mall siege. This is the head of the second largest global intergovernmental organization after the United Nations. This is a big, big deal. And his views are backed up by hard statistics. Studies which are linked in this InfoWars article illustrate how Americans use guns some 2.5 million times a year to protect themselves during confrontations with criminals. Justice Department figures also show that violent crimes have decreased as gun ownership has increased. And it's a brave stand from an extremely prominent individual, and we can expect the backlash from the gun control lobby to be imminent. Homeland Security spends $80 million on armed guards for civil disturbances. The DHS is set to spend $80 million on hiring a raft of armed guards to protect IRS and other government buildings in upstate New York during, quote, public demonstrations and civil disturbances. So again, they're talking about preparing for domestic disorder. And we know for a fact that the federal agency is preparing for civil unrest because back in June, the DHS was busy purchasing body armor and helmets for what they said were riot control situations. That's a direct quote. So we're not saying that Homeland Security is gearing up for riots. They are. And what form could such domestic disorder take? Well, last year, FPS agents, which is a unit of the DHS, ran a drill entitled Operation Shield, during which armed FPS agents with semi-automatic guns were stationed outside a Social Security office in Florida. So are they preparing for an anti-IRS backlash, potentially in relation to Obamacare? Or are they possibly gearing up for what happens when benefits get cut or ultimately withdrawn altogether? Which leads us into our next story. EBT looters to be shamed online. Looters who took advantage of last weekend's EBT card system failure to steal Walmart groceries are to be shamed into admitting guilt by having their photos posted online. And the police there in Many, which is in Louisiana, are resorting to this measure to try and catch the culprits. Of course, this is in response to the crash of the electronic benefits transfer system last weekend, which prompted shoppers in several Walmarts to leave the store with goods they hadn't paid for, in addition to others who staged mini riots when the system went down. 47 million food stamp recipients are having their benefits cut on November 1st. 47.6 million Americans are about to have their food stamp benefits cut, and most of them have absolutely no idea that it is about to happen. And this is basically a recession-era boost in benefits that took place back in spring. It's now set to end. There's going to be a $36 per family cut in food stamp benefits. And considering that the current average monthly food stamp income is just $272 per household, that's a huge amount for those living on the poverty line. So are we going to see shelves stripped bare in areas like we did in the aftermath of the EBT card crash? Does appear to be a very possible outcome. And again, it all goes back to dependency on government. When the rug is pulled out from underneath people's feet, there's no real safety net, and this is what they have to resort to. So the question is, those people who are suffering most from this, those on the poverty line, set to get their benefits cut once again. Are we going to see riots? Are we going to see unrest like we did on a smaller scale last weekend with the EBT card system failure? National News reports mysterious phone calls from 865-6696 may install NSA surveillance code on your iPhone. All across America, people who have Sprint service on their iPhones and other mobile devices are receiving repeated calls from the number 865-6696 without any area code. Sprint message boards are full of thousands of complaints of people experiencing this issue, but no one seems to understand the true reason why these calls are being made. So Mike Adams talked to a cybersecurity expert who told him that this was actually an NSA Trojan horse, which works by downloading a data packet onto your phone in seconds when you answer the call. According to the expert, this is being targeted at people with older iPhone 4s because the snooping technology already installed on their devices is in need of an upgrade. Adams writes, when I asked my contact why this would be happening, he answered that in his belief, the program was a test rollout on the Sprint network only, and that testing was being done to establish human behavior patterns, as well as answer rates, hold times, and payload install time requirements. This information could then be used to determine whether a more expanded rollout across other phone networks would make sense. So the takeaway here is, whatever the true purpose behind this, if you get a call from 865-6696, don't answer it. It could be the NSA downloading a Trojan packet onto your phone. Finally tonight, petition launched demanding White House open source disastrous healthcare.gov code. A petition has been launched on the White House website demanding that the Obama administration release the defective code for healthcare.gov website to the open source community, a move that would make public the errors that have led to such a disastrous rollout. The petition submitted via the We the People website states, release to the open source community the source code to healthcare.gov, specifically all code written by CGI Federal. So $634 million was spent on developing this train wreck. And as Ted Cruz joked today, you know, it looks more like it was put together by Nigerian email scammers than technology experts, which is why the government has now desperately reached out to the private sector in an attempt to fix it. Too little, too late, once again. So we've asked the question before, as have other experts, was this designed to fail all along in order to avoid the shock of millions of Americans suddenly finding out that their costs under Obamacare were soaring, average 99% for men, 62% for women? Did they want them to boil in the pot like the frog of gradualism rather than get that instant shock? That's what a lot of experts are saying were behind this. Of course, it's well documented that the White House knew that there would be problems. The site wasn't ready before it was launched. And this petition seeks to find out more. Of course, it needs 100,000 signatures before November 19th in order to reach the threshold which mandates a White House response.
Why is nascent iodine so important?
Nascent iodine is so important because it goes directly to the thyroid. It's not bonded to a salt, which means it doesn't have to be broken down, and it's the most usable form. It's what the body uses. It's what the body is designed to use. If you have low energy levels, if you have pains, if you have thyroid problems, if you don't feel up to par. Well, they've proven now that the fluoride and a lack of iodine causes a decreased IQ, because you have all this stuff that builds up inside your system and builds up and builds up. And that's why some people, when they start taking iodine, will have what's called a Herxheimer reaction or a detoxification reaction. But that's a good sign. That means you're detoxifying all that fluoride buildup, the mercury buildup in there, the bromine buildup in your system, and the chlorine buildup in your system. You don't want those things. All of those things have been proven as carcinogens. That's one of the reasons prostate cancer is on the rise too, is because prostate takes up iodine, and the men that are lacking iodine causes the prostate to become cystic and causes the prostate to swell and eventually leads to prostate cancer. There's been an extreme rise in polycystic ovarian disease, PCOS, with women, fibrocystic breast disease, because iodine is stored in the breast tissue, the ovaries, the prostate glands in men. It's utilized by every single cell in the body.
Why does this almost taste good compared to other iodine that tastes horrible? That's because it's real iodine, atomic form.
We wanted something that's going to go straight into the bloodstream and straight into the thyroid gland. We wanted to put it in a vegetable glycerin base. That's a USP kosher certified vegetable glycerin base. And that product is not tested on animals. It's vegan friendly. It's gluten free. It's GMO free.
Of all the things I've done, Nascent Iodine was just absolutely amazing. So we developed with Dr. Group a double strength, low price, InfoWarsLife.com, Survival Shield, the Atomic Nascent Iodine, available right now.
Top story tonight, Interpol chief arms citizens globally to prevent terror attacks. Interpol Secretary General Ronald Noble told ABC News that one of the only ways to prevent terrorists from It's Tuesday, October 22nd. I'm Paul Joseph Watson. This is InfoWars Nightly News.
Tonight on the InfoWars Nightly News, 47 million food stamp recipients to have their benefits cut back on November 1st, while DHS spends $80 million in tax dollars to quell civil disturbance. Plus, Alex Jones and Anthony Gucciardi reason with the San Antonio police chief at the Alamo over gun control. All that and more on the InfoWars Nightly News.